I think in regards to nonfiction and fiction work, I think it's easier for people to fully embrace fiction. Nonfiction almost creates a barrier for people to be like, well, that doesn't happen to me. That's someone else. But when it's someone who doesn't exist, I think people almost lift that wall up and feel a little bit more because the sense of pity isn't there because they don't exist. I think, we are constantly getting the news and getting other social media aspects and learning an overwhelming amount of information about people. And so when we are able to fully feel empathy for someone who doesn't exist, I think it can open an avenue to look into ourselves.
I think also, You're So Shy is kind of like a coming of age. So I think that also puts the audience in a different seat. I think it's something that we can all relate to when you see a coming of age film. Even if it's just in a small way, like you're gonna relate to that person's story. So I think, with what you were saying and how like you're connecting with this character, I think we can all put ourselves in our shoes of like growing up and like what that means and, taking these really big topics and, putting it to that. I feel like makes a lot of sense to sort of look at yourself and how does that make you feel, like having empathy for somebody.
And from a directorial view, it's easier to make changes than in a nonfiction state because then you're not as personally attached. And also it does create the possibility of adding something that is really personal, but you can kind of hide behind the fact that it's a narrative piece and you can lie about it, but you can also open the doors to that feeling.